How's it going, guys? And welcome once again to the Foot and Fist Sports Network. And it is time to talk about the fight fallout from this past weekend's UFC event, which was Tony El Cucuy Ferguson defeating Rafael Dos Anjos via unanimous decision. Also, we're going to be talking about Diego Sanchez's win over Marcin Held, Beneil Dariush's win over Rashid Magomedov, and Ricardo Lamas' win over Charles Oliveira. Let's start off with Beneil Dariush. Now, this guy is a great fighter, okay? He might not quite be on the level of the top 5, but I think that he has earned the right to prove himself against an opponent of that caliber. What we've seen from him is that his striking is evolving, it's getting better and better, but his jiu-jitsu is still just amazing. His transitions are tremendous, and I think that a great fight would be to see him take on the loser of Donald Cerrone versus Kelvin Gastelum. I think that the winner of that fight would probably be quite a bit closer to the title shot. I would probably say that if Donald Cerrone does win that fight, then he should take on Robbie Lawler and see where exactly that fight goes, because as you know, probably Donald Cerrone was scheduled to fight Robbie Lawler, but Lawler decided to pull out of the fight due to head trauma and stuff like that. So I think that would be an excellent fight for Beneil Dariush to be able to fight somebody like Kelvin Gastelum or even Donald Cerrone if Donald Cerrone does indeed lose. But it would give him an opportunity to take on somebody who is a higher level in competition and possibly even get himself in the title contention, which is somewhere he hasn't quite been yet in his career. So great performance from Beneil Dariush, and I do think that some big things are coming in his future. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about Ricardo Lamas, who put on a clinic against Charles Oliveira, who, as we mentioned, maybe I didn't mention it actually, but either way, he came in 9 pounds overweight for the fight. He was basically a lightweight fighting a featherweight, and it was great to see Ricardo Lamas punish him. I'm not a Charles Oliveira hater or anything like that. It's just that I'm not a big fan of people that miss weight by that much, especially when, at least allegedly, he was at McDonald's a few days earlier. Danny Castillo put a picture on Instagram, or reposted a picture that Charles Oliveira himself put up allegedly a few days ago where he was at McDonald's. And if that's really true, then that's just a disgrace to the UFC, to himself, and his coaches, really, because, I mean, you're a professional athlete. You might be a private contractor, whatever you want to call yourself, you are still a professional athlete, and you have an obligation to meet the weight limit that you signed the contract of. It's one thing to miss weight by like 1 pound or 2 pounds. It's a completely different thing to miss it by 10 pounds and essentially be a weight class above your opponent without having to cut weight or anything like that. So you're fresher than him and all this stuff. However, Ricardo Lamas, despite all that stuff, he went out there and he destroyed Charles Oliveira, put on a great performance, and got a big win. I'm not quite sure if he's going to be in contention as of right now. I have Jose Aldo ahead of him, Max Holloway, Frankie Edgar, probably even Jeremy Stevens, potentially. You know, there's quite a few guys in that division that are on the cusp of a title shot, and I think that he probably needs to beat one more guy in order to be in that range, and I would actually like to see him take on maybe the winner of Frankie Edgar's fight against Jeremy Stevens, because I think that the winner of that fight could definitely, present Lamas, who was ranked number 4, with a great challenge, and the winner of that fight could then take on either Conor McGregor or Jose Aldo or Max Holloway, whoever is the champion by the time that fight happens. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about Diego Sanchez. The Nightmare is back, everybody, and I mean, I'm really happy that he won the fight, okay? But I'm kind of disappointed in the fact that he's not going to retire, because he looked very good. And I mean, Marcin Held, we knew that coming into this fight that on the feet he was going to have a lot of problems, but his submission game was very, very good. Diego Sanchez was very, very close to being submitted in the guillotine, but he did an amazing job of actually using the cage to do a Showtime flip to get out of the guillotine, and ended up just pulling out an impressive win. I honestly thought he was fucked once that happened, but he somehow managed to survive and went out there, and he got the win in Mexico City, and you can see he was really, really pumped. And I mean, who knows? This guy might even fight another 4 or 5 times. He just doesn't have any quit in him. Apparently, according to his post-fight interview, he wants to go on a run. I personally don't see that happening, a title run, but I do think that he's probably going to try to attempt it. What I would like to see is the UFC give him one more opponent that's not necessarily in the top 15 or somebody like that, somebody who's on the cusp of being there, just because I don't want to see him take any more punishment, because I can't really think of anybody in the UFC that's taken more punishment than Diego Sanchez, and I don't want to see him take any more. I wish he would retire, but I just know Diego Sanchez is too much of a warrior to even be contemplating retirement at this point. So yeah, hopefully the UFC will give him somebody not in the top 15, somebody he can beat, and then potentially, if he does indeed feel like he really wants to keep going, then maybe give him a top 15 opponent if he wins that fight. Now let's go ahead and talk about the main event, which was a great fight. It maybe didn't live up to the expectations when it comes to how spectacular it was, because most people expect Tony El Cucuy just to be flying with flying knees, with elbows, and a bunch of crazy shit. And don't get me wrong, he did that. He did a lot of interesting stuff in that fight. He rolled on the ground like he always does, which is just something that nobody ever expects. However, Dos Anjos having good takedown defense, stuff like that, pretty much it was going to be a neutralized fight when it comes to takedowns and things like that. It was only going to end up on the ground due to a scramble or somebody getting hurt. And I think there was a very brief period, I think it was in the first round, where Dos Anjos was on top, and Cucuy immediately did a great transition, and pretty much Dos Anjos decided that he didn't want to even attempt to take down Cucuy. And that's pretty much where the ground fighting ended. And I think round one, because of the fact that they were on the ground and stuff like that, I think Dos Anjos did earn himself the first round. However, the second round was definitely Cucuy, in my opinion. The third round was very close. It was a very, very close round. I would have scored it. I have to rewatch it, but I could definitely see why they scored it to Dos Anjos. But the next three were definitely all El Cucuy. And hold on, yeah. I would say that the next two after that, not the next three, but the next two, so round 4 and 5 were definitely all El Cucuy. It was a great fight from El Cucuy. I was very surprised to see how technical he was in the fight, because especially if you look at some of his past fights, especially the one against Lando Venata, he takes a lot of hits, all right? He's very hittable because of the way his style is. He's so unorthodox that, yes, you don't know what he's going to throw, but that does make him very hittable, and that is a problem for him. I was very impressed by the fact that other than the third round, he was pretty much completely able to neutralize Dos Anjos and just punish him from distance. He used his range very well for the most part, and he was landing some interesting shots, as in stuff that you don't usually see from people, as always is the case with Cucuy, and it was a very impressive performance all around. And honestly, I can't see how you can possibly not give him the title shot after such a great performance against the former champion. Khabib Nurmagomedov fights in the next, I think it's this weekend or the card after that, and I don't think that beating a small name, Michael Johnson isn't a small name, but you know what I mean. But there's a difference between beating Michael Johnson and beating Rafael Dos Anjos. So I would say give the title shot to El Cucuy, and then Khabib can take the title fight after that. However, I'm not sure what the UFC is going to do. We'll see what they want to do. Either way, I think that El Cucuy should be getting the next title shot, because Conor McGregor or Eddie Alvarez versus Tony El Cucuy Ferguson is a sick fucking fight, and that's the fight that we want to see for the title. He is the people's champ, as he likes to call himself, and what can I say? I love my champion El Cucuy. So that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel. Please check out the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. The links will be in the description down below. Let me know in the comment section down below who you want to see Tony El Cucuy Ferguson fighting next. Should he fight for the title, or should Khabib get it? Let me know. That is it for the video, and I will see you on the next one.